Hi, Leena. Nice to see more essays from you. Let's take a look at this new set. The first one is about teas. Let's see what you said. The given flow chart shows the procedures of making tea. Let's try it again. The given flow chart shows the procedures of making tea by type. This is awkward here. This whole part from varied to the very end of the sentence is awkward. So let's fix it one more time. The given flowchart shows the procedures of making various types of teas. Okay? Overall, the simplest tea to make is white tea, which has only 3 steps to follow: sorting and cleaning, steaming and drying. And the tea that has the most complicated process is oolong tea, which has twice as many steps as white tea. All right? You have to make those changes. White, green, oolong, and black tea start off the process by sorting and cleaning the fresh tea leaves, whereas scented tea directly begins with drying. After sorting and cleaning the tea leaves, withering process follows when you make green, oolong, and black tea. While oolong and black tea start with rolling first, then pan frying or firing after withering, green tea has the opposite order, which is to pan fry first and roll after. Especially in the case of oolong and black tea, they have to be fermented shortly and fully each after rolling. The last step for all teas, with the exception of scented tea, is drying, but firing works as drying as well for black tea. In the case of scented tea, it is scented with flowers or fruits and then cooled down as the last step. Okay, so here's the good news. The vocabulary and the grammar are well controlled, no problems, accurate, good. What I take a little issue with and what I would like to see done a little better here is the organization of your ideas. So, let's take a look at this actually. Here's the flow chart. Let me just stretch out my page here, okay? No, there we go. Okay. So let's actually look at it. This is in fact one of my favorite task ones. So, I think that there's a lot of ways to do it. There's not one right way, but I'll tell you, ignore that noise. I'll tell you one of the ways that I like to do it. I agree with the first way you started, but then there were some things that happened. First of all, your overview was a little too detailed. You got into a lot of detail, and there's no reason for that. Your overview essentially should point out the biggest things here. So for me, the biggest things are that white tea is the simplest tea, oolong is the most complex, and scented tea is made out of 3 of those 4 teas. That's it. I mean, you didn't even have to mention that thing about scented, but that's one thing you could have done for your overview, rather than going into all those details about which step happens first. That's really a detailed paragraph and not an overview. So, what do I like to see here? I like to see that the 4 teas, white, green, oolong, and black, all start with one common step, and that step is sorting and cleaning. Okay? After that is completed, white tea has only 2 short steps, steaming and drying, and then it's done. Okay? Now, then you could say the other 3 remaining teas, green, oolong, and black, share the same step, following the same second step, and that step is withering. While for oolong and black tea this always happens, for green tea it is merely often. So a common step to green, oolong, and black tea is rolling. However, there are some differences among the different teas. Green tea is first pan-fried, steamed, or fired, and then rolled and shaped, whereas oolong is shaken or rolled in a basket in order to bruise its tea leaves, whereas black tea is rolled into strips or cut, depending on the type of black tea desired. Okay? Additionally, green tea, instead of being rolled and shaped, could be dried with the addition of jasmine, and then its process is done. So then we go back to oolong and black, okay? And then you can say that oolong and black are the two teas that are fermented. While oolong undergoes a short fermentation process, black tea must be fully fermented. The two teas, oolong and black, are also dried. However, first, oolong tea is pan-fried and then dried, whereas black tea is merely dried by firing. Okay? Then you're done with them. Then you move on to scented tea. Scented tea is created with the use of green, black, or oolong tea. It must be dried, and then it must first be dried, and then it is scented with flowers or fruits, and then cooled in order to be created. Okay, so that's one way to do this. That's the way I like to see this, to see which steps are common and kind of link them together as much as possible. All right, so let's now go on to your task 2. This is the one about moving companies into regional locations. Let's see what you said. Withdrawal of companies from large cities has been one of the consequences of an ever-expanding urban population. This has brought some benefits to cities, such as leveraged efficiency of land usage, but drawbacks such as decreased accessibility to companies for employees and clients at the same time. Okay, fine. For local government, pushing companies to move from large cities to suburbs, S, or regional locations, S, could be one of the solutions to alleviate congestion in the city. As cities have become larger, all facilities, including companies, have gathered to large cities for better access to sales and employment, and this movement has brought enormous effect to society in terms of rise of living expense, traffic congestion, and income disparity. By letting companies distributed into various regions, these urban issues could be mitigated. All right, there's some problems. First of all, cities, cities. Okay, too many times. It's like this tiny little paragraph. It's not even 4 lines, and I saw the word cities like 4 times. So it's too much. You're going to either have to find some sort of synonym for the word city, or you're going to use some form of cohesion. Okay? Let's say, now, remember what the essay is asking you. What are the benefits of moving to regional locations? So you don't need to tell me why this is happening. You need to tell me the benefits of it. And have you done that? Let's see if you've talked about the benefits of moving to regional locations. You said that it could be a solution. You said that companies have gathered to large cities and why they have stayed in large cities, and there's been a rise in living expense, traffic congestion, and income disparity. So then you say that all these issues can be mitigated. It's not really correct. This is similar to something I saw in another essay, or something I have been seeing in another essay, where think about the colors black and white. You can't argue that, how can I say this? You like white better because black is bad. No, you have to tell me why white is better. Okay? So in other words, you don't argue in favor of something, and you don't explain why something exists or why something happens by explaining why its opposite is not good or its opposite does not happen. And that's what you did here. You essentially told me why all these companies have moved to urban centers, and then you have one tiny little sentence at the end by saying that all these problems would be solved if companies moved to regional locations. So it doesn't really work like that. You instead have to say, again, to remind you what the benefits of moving to regional locations are. So think about how regional locations would benefit, how companies would benefit, rather than saying all of this, which really felt like a roundabout kind of way of talking about this topic. All right, moving on. However, the withdrawal of companies also involves some critical drawbacks, since each company has different and complicated business, different and complicated business ecosystem. In many cases, the company's sales and employment strategies are affected a lot by its location. For instance, there was an incident where my country's government, South Korea, pushed many national corporations, to move from the capital city of Seoul to another province, which takes 3 hours to arrive. Vast amounts of people who used to work in those corporations though, either had to quit their jobs or move to another province to keep working there. Besides, the problem of congestion and gentrification in Seoul was not completely solved by merely moving corporations not backwards, but back to regional locations. All right, well, explain to me why it wasn't solved. All right, and then you could have told me a little bit more about this. I like this example in that you had some personal experience with this issue, but it would have made a little more sense if you had developed it a little further. So tell me why this is a drawback. So, all right, people have to move to another province. Okay, what's wrong with that? What's impractical? What's not a good idea? I mean, so maybe you could have extended a little more. You could have said that a lot of people don't want to do this, and then in turn the company has to look for substitute employees from the regional location, and maybe they won't be as highly qualified as those who are in the major cities. Okay, so it needed a little further extension. Okay, so there have been continuous discussions on solving urban problems, including relocating the companies to suburbs and rural areas. And this would be our ever-ending task that we need to confront. Yet, more precise considerations from views of different facets are needed to tackle these issues wisely. All right, that's fine. I think you have some information here to help you improve this essay, and information that will help you understand where the weak areas were. The grammar was mostly good. The vocabulary was appropriate, but there are just some weak areas in terms of the task achievement. So those are the areas that I want you to really, really focus on. Developing your ideas a little more and making sure they are more appropriately developed with respect to the way the prompt is phrased. Okay, so go ahead and correct these, bring them back to us corrected, and let's see what you write in your next set. Good luck.